Elon Musk is teasing the release of more internal Twitter communications surrounding the company's handling of the Hunter Biden laptop story. New York Post columnist Miranda Devine is praising the former computer repair shop owner for not allowing the FBI to bury Hunter's laptop. Miranda tweeted this. John Paul Mac Isaac did give the laptop to the police and the FBI in December of 2019, and they buried it. Cleverly, he had a copy when he realized the FBI was burying it. He reached out to members of Congress and finally to Rudy Giuliani, the only person to reply and understand what he actually had. Joining me right now is the former computer repair shop owner himself, the Hunter Biden laptop whistleblower, John Paul Mac Isaac. And John, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for being here. You are a hero. But when you actually did start telling what you had and exposing the truth, you lost everything. Tell us about your journey and what happened to you.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on the show. The past couple of years have been pretty intense for me. So I'm just happy at this point that I'm starting to see glimmers of justice. And because it hasn't always been that way for me. I went up against Twitter back in 2021 when they labeled my activity hacking, or therefore labeling essentially me a hacker, and that's a death sentence in my business. So I went after Twitter. Unfortunately, they switched judges on me, gave me an Obama-appointed judge who threw the case out with prejudice and awarded Twitter the Florida slap statute. So that basically Twitter cut my legs off and prevented me from fighting any legal battles in the future and possibly forcing me into bankruptcy, making it so that it basically would take the fight out of me. You can understand how relieved and excited I am with what Elon's doing over at Twitter right now, because what I've known for a very long time is true and proving to be facts.
And even the Elon data dump, which Matt Taibbi tweeted out, Matt Taibbi clearly also underlined the fact that within Twitter, there were claims about that hackable response. They were questioning leadership. Are we sure we can say this was hacked? There's no evidence whatsoever that any government hacked any of this or any individual hacked this. Twitter is claiming that the laptop story had to be censored because it contained the hacked materials. Yet, look at the Twitter files. We know now that within hours after the story was censored, pretty much everybody at Twitter revealed that excuse was not going to hold. One former employee saying, quote, "No one had the guts to reverse the decision." Did anybody from Twitter even reach out to you, John? I mean, did they ask how you got the laptop? Did anybody call you and say, give me the facts? How do we know that this was Hunter Biden's laptop, and left with you?
No, and when we went to sue Twitter, we asked for discovery, we asked for preservation of documents, and Twitter lied to us. They did not mention this involvement. So the fact that James Baker was on the payroll tells me that they probably had a back channel to the Department of Justice, if not the FBI, and that this material, the FBI was in possession of the laptop December 9th, 2019. They had all my conversations and communications. They had a copy of Hunter's signed authorization that was dated April 12th, 2019, clearly allowing me to access, not hack. Usually, if you're a hacker, you don't get permission from the owner or previous owner to access the data. So the FBI knew all the facts. James Baker's working for Twitter, I assume as a back channel, and they still decided to bury this, label it Russian disinformation, label my actions hacking, and try to sweep this under the rug.
Yeah, and let's underline that James Baker angle as well, because he was at the DOJ. He was the Department of Justice Deputy General Counsel. Okay, and he's there during the Russia hoax. He's pursuing this story, a complete made-up story that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. And that blows up because everybody finally figures out that it was a total lie. He's pushed out of the DOJ. Where does he go? Twitter. And he becomes Twitter's head of security. He sends an email telling employees concerned about blocking the story to, quote, stay the course. James Baker leaves the department in May of 2018 before you actually turned over the laptop to the FBI. But this is all really interesting and important to recognize this back channel, because now we know from sworn testimony that the FBI was having meetings with social media weekly before the 2020 election, interfering in an election to keep this Hunter Biden story and the crimes of influence peddling quiet. So where do you go from here? Do you feel, I know you're feeling somewhat vindicated, but you had to declare bankruptcy. I mean, they didn't care that your life was completely destroyed in the process.
Actually, I was really lucky that I could avoid bankruptcy. If it wasn't actually for the kindness of individuals across the country that contributed to my friend's Give, Send, Go, that has kept me out of bankruptcy. So I'm grateful for that. And now with the America Project funding my future lawsuits against Adam Schiff, Politico, CNN, Hunter Biden, and the campaign to elect Joe Biden, I'm not going to wait for the Department of Justice to act. I'm going to try to do what I can on my front. I'm also going to try to do what I can to work with Congress to make sure they have all the resources, materials. I just came out with a book that basically chronicles the entire ordeal, which I first want to just say I can't begin to thank Miranda Devine enough. I wouldn't have been able to publish my book if it wasn't for the opportunity she provided me. So I'm grateful for her. But I've mapped everything out. There's a timeline. I have time and date stamps. I have fresh, clean copies of Drive. I'm ready to go to war with this, and I'm not going to stop until it's over.
But, you know, this corruption is what the American people have figured out over these last several years of, you know, Trump derangement syndrome. Because when you consider what you were up against and the massive forces battling against truth, it wasn't just the FBI and the media. It was also these 51 intelligence officials who said that the Hunter Biden laptop story was disinformation and signed a note to say such comments right before the 2020 election. We actually had a sitting director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, on this program weeks before the 2020 election to totally smash that theory. He said there's absolutely no way that these 51 intelligence officials are telling the truth. Here's John Ratcliffe from October 2020 right here on Mornings with Maria. Watch this.
This is not part of some Russian disinformation campaign. The intelligence community has not been involved with Hunter Biden's laptop. Hunter Biden is a U.S. person, and he would be subject to any investigation regarding fraud or corruption would be rightfully the jurisdiction of the FBI. So the FBI has had possession of this.
That was the sitting director of national intelligence, John, and yet the media ignored it and kept pushing this narrative that it was fake news because the FBI and the DOJ were telling them to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's astonishing. It's not, for all those people that are afraid that we're inching closer and closer to socialism, I regret to inform you that we already have a state-run media, a state-run social media, and compliant and complacent federal agencies that are willing to take our tax money to do their master's biddings.
Yeah. And, you know, unfortunately, this is not some story about a drug addict gone wrong. This is the story of a sitting senator, a sitting vice president, and now president influence peddling. This is a Joe Biden story. A president who has made tens of millions of dollars taking money from foreign officials, and now he has to make decisions on behalf of America. It's a very dangerous moment in time. John, you're a hero. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on the show.
John Paul Mac Isaac joining us this morning on Hunter Biden's laptop.